now, but I realised that not everybody knows where me and Ebian are coming from. So we work for a small non-profit organisation called the UK Women's Budget Group, which is based in the UK. And we started as a small group of women who were frustrated that decisions about the impact of the budget every year did not include how the budget would affect men and women differently. So from the start, one of the strengths of the Women's Budget Group was that it involved members from a very different range of backgrounds with different expertise, so particularly academia, and it involved the women's voluntary sector and trade unions. So in the UK, the way that the NGO space works is that for women in the women's sector, you have kind of frontline service providers who are usually focused on things like domestic violence and all of the issues that stem from that. But then you have, we position ourselves as second tier, so we work in the policy, trying to influence policy, but we work very, very closely with those grassroots and frontlines organisations so that very much the experiences of the women inform our policy responses. So as well as bringing a range of expertise to the Women's Budget Group, members use the Women's Budget Group analysis to influence their own networks and build awareness of feminist approaches to economics within academia, within trade unions, and within the women's movement as a whole. So some gender budgeting groups also involve policy makers, but whilst WBG has allies amongst parliamentarians and civil servants, the group has always remained independent of government and political parties. And you'll see throughout our history, there'll be times when we're closer to whichever political party in power and our policies resonate and we have more of a direct channel, or today we find ourselves in a position where we're very much on the outside and we have a very hostile and unfriendly political environment to operate in, and so we have to adapt our strategy. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So the membership of a gender budgeting group can be largely broken up into three sections. So at the top, we have the academics, and they bring the research expertise, they bring credible research, rigorous research that can be backed up by methodologies, and they have to be seen as independent. Then we've got in the corner the civil society organisations, so this includes the trade unions, the women's movements, who bring the frontline expertise, so down from the grassroots all the way up, and they have experience of lobbying and of engaging with the media and focusing on communications and how to talk about gender responsive budgeting. It's very nice to have research that's very rigorous, but if your research sits on a shelf and nobody reads it, it's useless. So you need the civil society organisations to bring your message forward and communicate it in accessible ways that make sense to a regular person. And then on the And then on the other side, we have the feminist policymakers. So this is our strategic relationships that we have to forge, and they bring about the understanding of how to bring change in the policy world, and they help build contacts and alliances. So either you'll find someone who is a decision maker, who is in power, who agrees with your policies, or you make a connection with somebody who has influence on that person. So it's all about getting your policies, your suggestions, your pressuring the right people and making sure your stuff ends up on the right desk. Next slide, please.